The Creative Coliseum would like to begin by acknowledging that we are on treaty land, referred to as Treaty 4 territory, and that all people here are beneficiaries of this treaty. Treaty 4 encompasses the lands of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect and honor the treaties that were made on all territories. We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and we are committed to moving forward in partnership with Indigenous nations in the spirit of reconciliation and collaboration.
Hello, welcome to the Creative Coliseum. My name is David Roman, and I am alone today because somebody abandoned me and decided to go to New York City. How dare they? How dare they? But anyways, today on the show, we are going to do a guest interview. It's going to be a one-on-one. I have a wonderful actor friend of mine who's here ready to go. But before we do that, just a reminder that please hit those follows, hit those subscribes, whatever you got to do. It's all free. Helps us get some more algorithms and viewers and all those wonderful things. And we'll just throw it to one of our sponsor videos. I'll be right back.
Hey there, this is Alicia from Piano TV. I'm a piano teacher and I've got a bunch of videos up on YouTube if you want to check those out. I also host free monthly webinars on a variety of piano-related topics and make courses about learning piano, whether you're a complete beginner or if you're an intermediate level student. If you are interested in staying up to date with the things I've got going on, you can visit pianotv.net and join my mailing list where you will also receive a free ebook on how to practice the piano. The courses that I offer open for registration in August and they run from September to April, where you'll join a group of like-minded individuals and receive personal feedback from myself. Whether you're 29 or 92, it's never too late to learn.
All right. We've already had some chaos in the studio here while we were on commercial break, but that's okay. I'm hanging out today with Andrew Valdez. How's it going?
Good. How are you, Dave?
I'm not too bad. Actually, decent for a Sunday.
Yeah.
Andrew Valdez, we've known each other for a long time. You are an actor extraordinaire from Regina, Saskatchewan, and stuntman as well, too. Is that correct? Are you?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that too. I know I didn't include that in the show notes. It's like surprise ninja attack here. I'm gonna drill you about your stuntman life.
Yeah, it's throwing me completely off. My mind's blank now.
Your mind's blank. No. So yeah, I mean, I was trying to think about the context of us meeting, and it's crazy how long you and I have been around the local film scene. I mean, you and I, actually both of us, appear on almost everything. Like, it seems like anytime there's a film or something, like cameo from you, lead role from you maybe, little credit for me for doing something on it. Like, it seemed like for the longest time that was that was the reality. They were letting two Chileans get away with all the work.
Which is a terrible idea.
It was a terrible idea. It's probably why we haven't succeeded. No, just kidding. Yeah. Anyway, so I guess I was thinking back, and I think it was Mud Dreams, right? You were in a short film called The Mud Dreams.
You bet.
And that was directed by, I'm going to butcher his name, but Mohammed Sadoun.
That's correct. That's how I was going to pronounce it.
That's how you're going to pronounce it. I really miss Mohammed. I haven't seen him in years. He's out in Toronto living the dream.
Yeah. He was on a early thing. I saw him in years back, but still years after he'd left. But he was on set on a Jessica Chastain movie.
Oh, wow.
Something like that. I saw stills of him, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I saw him. He took a picture. Who was it with? And he posted it. And it was somebody I was really jealous about. I don't know if it was like a basketball player or like a...
Oh, okay.
I don't know. It was something. But anyways. So this was a short film in university, and it was his final film, I believe, for the year. And it was a film about, Mohammed being from Syria. It was a film about a Syrian student, right? And I just remember... meeting you, and I hadn't done a lot of film yet. I had, this was like one of my first gigs that I'd ever done. And I didn't really know much about what to expect from actors or what was going on set. And I just remember you were so intense. And I mean this in a good way. Like you were off in another room, getting ready for the character, getting worked up, getting emotional constantly. And I was pretty blown away by your performance because, again, I was so new to film. I didn't know that actors would go, this in depth into what they were doing. So I guess I want to hear from your perspective a little bit. Tell me a bit about your experience in that film. That was a very, very long time ago. I really want to know, like, what was going on in your brain. What were you drawing from?
Yeah, that is a ways back. It was he released it in 2013.
Yeah.
So that's in my mind, that's the timestamp it's on, 2013. Well, it started out with my acting mentor. He told me that a filmmaker had asked about me, and I just remember, okay, cool, and he gave me his contact information, and I think he had passed his contact information to the theater department's receptionist, and then I reached out to him, and he wanted to meet to discuss the character, and so
Right.
I'm not quite sure how the lead up to that was, but I believe it was the late great Michelle Serrata that I had been in a workshop with, they'd gone through a play, a run through of a play that was being developed, and so my acting teacher and mentor brought her in to do a demonstration for us, and I was present there, and I asked a question. And I always take those kind of things and want to take a thoughtful approach to it. So my question maybe influenced Michelle and maybe motivated her to speak to Mohammed about me.
Oh,
That's the only really thing. Like if I were a detective, that's where I would draw the through line.
If you didn't just play one on TV.
Yeah. So I believe that she maybe from that spoke to him, and then he approached me, and then we got together in the university to discuss the character.
Okay, awesome. And Michelle, speaking from my experience too, that was actually the first time I ever met her was on that film as well. And she's one of those people that if she's drawn to you and she's interested in your creativity, she'll find things for you to do. Like, I don't know about you, but I just feel like from her, I was suddenly introduced to this other different landscape of work that I never had before, and really meaningful, like powerful work. She was a force to be reckoned with. So,
and I mean, she was someone who you could. Now in hindsight, you can sort of recognize the people that have training and who actually have a wealth of experience, because they tend to follow their curiosity, and that's more accessible to them. Whereas people who are less perhaps creative or less in touch or have developed that less in themselves, it's very common for them to go like, oh, that's dumb, or that's this, and they ignore that.
Right.
But she's someone who is, I think, very in tune with her intuition and curiosity.
Yeah. That's a really good way of describing her.
That was the impression that I got from her.
Yeah. So she played your mother in that film.
Right.
I think your mother and what was the other character? The like the person who was keeping you up. I don't know what you'd call her. Like
she was the essentially the owner of the property.
Yes.
She took me into her home. So
that's right.
As someone who would sponsor, say, a student from abroad.
Right.
And let them stay.
Yeah. So I guess that'd be like a sponsor, I guess. Yeah.
She was like my natural mother and my surrogate mother in a different time.
Yeah.
Parallel.
I liked that whole juxtaposition. That was kind of cool. And from like speaking from the perspective of somebody who comes to another country, and I don't have specifically this perspective, but I mean my family does. You come to another country and you don't have a family here. You find a new family, right? And I think Mohammed felt like Michelle was that for him in some ways. Michelle was a bit of a surrogate mother for him, being so far away from Syria. That's the sentiment I got from him as he talked to me.
Yeah, and he was someone who was very thoughtful about the project he was doing. I mean, there were other filmmakers who, I'm sure they take it seriously, but it's just, you don't come across that often that in film students that they take their project as like, if I'm going to make one thing ever, this is something that I'm going to take seriously. And I felt that, he had done so much of his own homework and brought so much of his personal experience to it, and it felt authentic. And it was easy to sign on because, I mean, anyone who's that thoughtful about it, it's going to turn out well in some capacity.
what I really liked about that film too, and his approach was, there's parameters that you have to follow for a final project in university, and in some ways he scoffed at those parameters a bit and just made the film he wanted to make. And honestly, I think the film is better for it.
And that's the exact attitude to make something great.
Well, for real,
ways.
right?
Yeah.
For real. And, and not to tell everybody out there, hey, break all the rules all the time. But at the same time, there is a place to be innovative like that, and to listen to your artistic self and what might be good for a project. Sometimes the rules don't work well. They just don't. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's tough to say that completely. Yeah, like it's more like know the rules. Don't break the rules recklessly.
Exactly.
But know the rules. Hopefully you've done something where you've abided by the rules, so then you can break them consciously. Because when you hear all these stories of great films that get made, and rules tend to get broken in some way. Yeah. But everybody loves them, and then they're coming back like, we need to do a sequel to that. It's like, oh, well, I thought you said initially you didn't like it. Or you wanted me to follow these other rules. Like, well, maybe we were wrong.
Maybe we were wrong about that, yeah. So, I mean, kind of building on that then, that's how we met. That's right. Pretty early in your acting life, I'm assuming. I mean, early in your life, really, like university, right? So, did you? You went to U of R, right? Like is that where you? Yeah.
Right.
Tell me a bit what got you there. What did you take in U of R? What's because I know your background to a point, but I purposely did not learn as much as I wanted to because I wanted you to tell me. So
yeah. Fair enough. So I was there studying psychology because I'd finished university high school, and I was pretty determined. My life plan was going to be that I was going to become a scientist, a biologist, or involved in the organic sciences to some capacity. And so I took all my sciences in high school, and then I realized, psychology seems to be the thing that kept. Once I took that class in high school, then that felt like a great fit for me.
Right.
So then I pursued that in university. But shortly before that, I was introduced to the creative world, the film world specifically. So I had a dual purpose in university.
Right. And so did that change your direction of study then at all? Like, did you? Like, I know when I was in school, I took social work, and there was a point in time in my social work degree where suddenly I realized I really liked film.
Right.
And so then I started to just take film classes, which really didn't have anything to do with my social work degree in some ways, but I was allowed a certain amount of electives, and I still had leftover electives. So I said, screw it, I'm gonna learn something I'm really passionate about.
And that's almost exactly my experience. Except I discovered film shortly before finishing high school, so it kind of carried over a bit.
Right,
it just wasn't as palpable until I finally got into university. But for sure, it was. I had a ton of electives because any of those, I guess the social sciences have, at least at that time, they had a huge amount of electives. Yeah. So it's almost like you could do a whole degree in something else while doing psychology.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. A lot of people that I've talked to who take psychology, it's almost like as if they always springboard into something else while they're in psychology. And what I love about that idea is, I think artists are very drawn to psychology just because everything you do has like this psychological impact on somebody, or that's what you're aiming for, at least, as an artist. You want to impact somebody, you want to affect somebody. That's really what we're looking to do, right? And so we're trying to understand like the psychology of ourselves and characters and others, and
Yes, 100%. I would agree with that. I mean, then it was an easy combination to make because then as you get deeper into the study of how to really make a character come off the page, a lot of it is, at least many schools of thought go into the character, discover the mindset, the motivation, and really dissect that and understand it and how you can connect it to yourself. So 100%.
Yeah. Let's go a little further back then. I'm always curious to know what gets artists to where they're at now. What inspires you to finally say, hey, I'm gonna try acting. I'm going to try jumping in front of a camera. I'm assuming maybe you did some drama when you were younger too, or some plays or theater or whatever. So yeah, tell me a bit about that. Like, what was the spark? Where were you going? Oh man, I really want to try this or give this a shot.
Wow, yeah, that is going not too far back. I mean, I'm not 80 or anything, but but yeah, it's a ways back. I would say that it was in me from the beginning, I would say, because I was just naturally curious as a kid. I mean, I was the kind of person that was reading science textbooks and asking for encyclopedias as a 7-year-old, 6-year-old. So that was always something. But at the same time as that is happening, when I would see movies, I had the strong impulse, disorder, some might say, to imitate the actors. And lines and sequences of dialogue came very easily to me to memorize. I needed to watch a scene maybe twice, and then the rhythms of the dialogue, the cadence of the actors and how they interacted would kind of sear into my mind, and to the amusement of my family. So I offered some value to them.
To the amusement of your family.
Yeah, to entertain them. So I mean, like, I remember the earliest memory I have is Jim Carrey and Adam Sandler movies, and I would memorize dialogue from like The Mask or
okay.
Dumb and Dumber and Billy Madison for Sandler and Big Daddy. And like, imagine like a 7-year-old spouting some of that stuff out, especially with the Sandler movies, like just the horror of the parents. But
yeah.
I didn't understand what any of it meant usually. But
we did grow up in a time with like raunchy comedy. Like that was...
And those actually, and those were fairly tame, honestly. If you consider Sandler, which I think he gets a bit of a bad rap for that. He's not as vulgar when you look back, but yeah, certainly terms that a 7-year-old shouldn't be saying.
Yeah,
for things So that it started with imitating, and just when I'd watch movies, I couldn't sit still. If you saw me as a kid watching a movie, I'd be standing up. Or I'd be very dynamic, like watching it and then rewind it, and I want to do that part. I'd want to do that. I wanted to do it. So
my daughter is actually a lot like that. That's funny you say that. You know, she watches this movie Sing or Sing 2, like the animated film, and she's got a whole performance, like she's mimicking the performance of the characters in the film, and and she like had to put on this big show for us. So yeah, it's kind of funny you say that because I'm seeing that in my own kid, like seeing that spark of interest in her in performance.
Yeah,
very, very young age. You know, she's only 5. So
Very cool.
So I guess it sounds like obviously then you had a really natural, organic kind of pathway, I guess, into becoming an actor or trying acting. Yeah. You mentioned Jim Carrey, you mentioned Adam Sandler. So was it mostly the comedic performances then that were drawing you to at that time?
Yeah.
Because this is really fascinating to me, and it's something that I wanted to talk to you about today a lot. Was when I first met you, you were again, we talked about this intense, dramatic performance. I mean, you had to pretend to be a Syrian who has their family bombed and doesn't know if they're alive or not, and you're just, you know, like you were making the crew cry at certain points in times. You know, you were so, it was such an emotional performance. But then I know there's the other side of, like, you know, you have a lot of I guess how I would describe it, you act with your body a lot, right, with movements and things like that. Like there's that one film you were in, Basic Human Needs, is that the one?
Right.
Yeah, where you have the dance sequence that's really well known around here, and it's just like, it's part of your demo reel. Like it was a big comedic moment for you. So yeah, like I guess what I'm trying to get at here is how do you decide like what what kind of roles you're going to take then in that regard? Like, I feel like you kind of go from both, you can go to both extremes. You know, you can be the dramatic kind of intense performance, but then you definitely have this comedic, lighthearted kind of thing going on too. So yeah, I'm just curious about what your influences for that, or what kind of takes you there.
Yeah, I would say that it really comes down to just how much you limit yourself.
Yeah.
And I just never thought to myself, I can't do comedy or drama. That's just not thoughts that existed in my head. It's just about the person. I was just curious about what the person does. I would say what led up to not limiting myself is the fact that I did have those comedic influences early on, and I could do a lot of physical comedy. I was like from a young age, I was a bit of a contortionist, like naturally flexible. I can put like my leg behind my back. I won't do it here, so don't get too excited.
Oh, come on. We got room. We'll zoom out.
Whoa, there's a lot of pesos there for that. So there was that, and then the dramatic stuff came later on. But for a long time, it was purely about just the comedy, because I was drawn. It was dynamic. It was these guys. The comedy guys could hit you on multiple levels. They could hit you on the physical comedy aspect of it, but then they could also, with their dialogue, the wit. And I think Jim Carrey and Adam Sandler are both very aligned in that way, that they have multiple layers to their comedy. There's the physical, Jim Carrey more so, but in my opinion, but the physical aspect of it, his face is rubbery and his limbs, he can do really wacky things and incredible things. And Adam Sandler too, when he's playing sometimes he's a hunchback kind of thing.
Yes.
Little Nicky or those kind of things. So it was just a matter of like, I can do that too. I've always just had that thing like, I can do that too. If something strikes me, it's like, I want to do that, and I have no say in the matter. I have to do it.
Oh, okay. I like that idea. So the art is almost molding you rather than you coming to the art and saying, this is what it's going to be, I think in some ways then, like it's like you're kind of vibing with it and trying to feel where it's going to take you a bit more. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And being almost, I have younger brothers now, but I was an only child for the first 6.5 years of my life.
Okay.
So, and even when he was my second oldest brother's was a baby. I mean, he's a baby. You're still kind of like an only child. I mean, the guy can't do much. So you're still an only child until he's about 4 or 5, right? So I spent a lot of time alone. So there was nobody, and I spent a lot of time in my room alone, just playing. I could entertain myself. I was more introverted, I guess, in that regard. So there was nobody telling me I can't do things. Right. There was nobody saying, "Oh, that's silly," or that. Like my dad loved it. My mom also enjoyed it. So there was nobody saying, "Oh, well, you can't do that. That's silly. Stop that." Or bully. The older sibling who might bully you, not because they're bad, just because they're kids who are a-holes sometimes. So that really, I think it was an ideal environment, incidentally, for that initial creative impulse to continue to grow.
Yeah, 100%. Having supportive parents who are okay with you expressing yourselves is a really good thing as an artist,
Not as a career path, but just do whatever your little skit is, like they would enjoy it.
Yeah, not as a career path. I guess
Chilean parents.
Chilean parents, Hey, at least we're, they're not expecting us to be doctors or anything like that. But well, maybe, I don't know. I don't know about yours, but
yeah, for sure.
But no, it's a really good point to say that, though. Allowing somebody to feel comfortable in their skin and with their expressiveness. Mm-hmm. I see that even at like an adult level. I work at the Regina Public Library.
Right.
Oh gosh, I'm doxing myself again. Here I go. That's okay. It's a Regina show. People know. No, but I work there as a digital media specialist, and you work with a lot of the community who haven't had that really safe space to express themselves and explore their creativity.
Right.
And it's fascinating seeing people come out of their shell and suddenly do things that were unexpected as they get more comfortable. Like you can see that their body language loosens up. That they might get a little bit more of a smile on their face, and suddenly maybe they're laying down a rap, or they're whatever it is. They're doing something that they didn't think they could do, and their entire being just lights up. And I just feel like I wish every child could experience that. Right? I feel like if we all were allowed to experience that at some point in our lives, we would probably see some of the things in our lives that we really are interested in, and maybe pursue them a little more intensely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the very least, pardon me. The very least, you'd have people who are more in touch and aware with their own inner life.
Yes.
And that is an important thing to know and to understand where your areas of improvement are. Be aware of your feelings.
Yeah.
And then you can curb possible behavior that might be problematic, because you're just in tune with it. So you can find help for yourself if there's something there.
And then you're more comfortable, like with that part of yourself too, right? Like expressing that to somebody or giving.
Yeah,
giving that.
you're not trying to push it down or numb it with substances or something like
That's
that.
fascinating, actually, because I know a lot of people almost look at creative people and actors and think, oh, we're all just a bunch of alcoholics and drug addicts. And,
that's the impression in Chile sometimes.
Right?
There's a great skit in Chile. A lot of comedians, late night comedians, which again, as a kid, I shouldn't have been watching because I lived in Chile for a while. So
oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there'd be a skit where the main comedian guy, he's saying, he's talking to his daughter and he's like, what does she do? Or, oh, you're dating? What does he do for a living? He's like, oh, he's a singer. He's like, oh, so he's homeless, basically. He's like, oh, yeah, homeless. No money, he's broke.
That's fantastic.
That's the initial instinct. Yeah.
My one of my cousins, he plays percussion for a group called Chico Trujillo.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I don't know if you've heard of them.
But Trujillo's a name that is common in Chile.
Yeah, and they were pretty well known. Like they actually even toured all the way up here to Toronto once.
Wow.
They played like Lollapalooza. They've done lots of big gigs. But anyways, it's funny you say that because I look at him and he definitely has that vibe of not necessarily homelessness, but like he doesn't look. I think he would prefer to dress this way anyway, but he definitely has more of the stereotypical what people would think an artist looks like in Chile kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And he lives at least the last time I saw him, he's very humble. Like he doesn't have a super elaborate place. It's very simple but he's happy. He's got a family, kids, and he tours.
That's awesome.
I think he's still doing it too. I haven't talked to him in a long time.
It's a great setup.
Yeah. Okay, well, moving on, I do want to show the audience a little bit of your work. So I'll set this up a little bit. So Andrew and I were involved in a film called Talent. And this was created by Prairie Cat Productions, directed by our good friend Lucas Frison from here in Regina. This was Lucas's first feature film, actually. Right. And actually, a question I had for you, because I know Lucas, Prairie Cat has done quite a bit. With the exception of their documentary work, I think you've been in almost all of their films. I think, were you in Queen City Blues? Were you in that one? You were in that one too, right? And then there was another one, I know about a couple of mimes.
Modern Mimes.
Were you in that one?
Yes.
Okay, you're in that one. Are you in Fragments of Penny as well? I think
briefly.
You show up in that. Yes. Briefly, okay, so you are like officially the character that follows through his entire like filmography, because you're also in Talent. You were in Pen Pals. I think that's all of them. I think that's all the narratives he's done.
Yeah.
And then there's a new film coming out, which I'm assuming you're going to be involved in some capacity. Whether
I reached out to congratulate her. I mean, so it's we'll see.
Lucas, if you're watching, cast this man. keep the universe intact. You're like the Stan Lee of the Prairie Cat Productions universe.
Oh well.
But anyways,
awesome.
Having said all that, so Talent is a feature-length film shot here, independent film made by a bunch of great local people. Andrew plays one of the leads in this film. So this scene is actually the final scene of the film. I'm wrecking the whole film. So if you don't want to know how this film ends, don't watch this. But it's kind of the end of the film. You and the other actress Natalie are you just successfully broken a world record. You've kind of overcome a bunch of stuff, and you're having a nice heartfelt conversation. So. Here we go.
Never thought I'd be a world record holder.
Never thought you'd make more than 10 saves in a game. Well, given it was a 70-hour game.
Once something is a passion, the motivation is there.
Quote?
Yeah, I can't remember who said it, though.
Margaret Atwood?
No, I haven't taught her how to speak yet.
So, what's your passion?
What?
You said once something is a passion, the motivation is there. What's your passion?
You?
Well, you did help me with my passion today.
You want to go to a movie?
right. So that's the ending of Talent. You got the girl at the end. You saved the day.
There's the possibility that I'll get the girl. Yeah.
Well,
But
it's assumed, right?
Yeah.
It's assumed you're going to the movie together.
I like how he left it a bit ambiguous.
Yes, it's true.
I appreciate it.
Well, and for those who haven't seen the film, the entire film, you are chasing this girl.
Yeah.
You're very clearly what they would call simping, I guess, in modern day terminology.
That's what the kids are saying.
That's what the kids are saying. And she's just constantly like, whatever. You're just a friend. You're just that guy, Fergus. She's after the who I didn't think was more interesting than you. The other character, Alfie.
Oh yeah. Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah. No. The entire time I'm watching the film, I'm just like, why isn't she after Fergus? Fergus is look at this guy. He's nice. He's artistic.
Look at this guy.
He's attractive. He's a good dude. But anyway. So I really like that scene because there isn't a lot to do there. You're lying down, right? And I remember filming this and how uncomfortable it was to film for you guys because you're literally lying on this gym floor, take after take, and you're not allowed to move. They're like, Natalie's hair has to be spread out like this. And
she had a rough go.
She had a really rough go, right?
I would imagine. She was very composed throughout, so good for her.
Well, and so this is a scene where you can't act with your body much, right? Like your body is...
It's the face.
Taken out of the equation. It's all face.
You got to do a lot of face stuff.
Yeah.
Or not as much, depending.
But you nailed it. Like I just the way, I love how gentle and like loving you are in that scene. And just when she's asking, well, what's your passion? And it's like the way you say you is just like, it crushes me a little bit. It's just like, oh man, this guy's really in love with her. And he's a wonderful, wonderful person. Like you just made us feel that character. You made us really root for that character in that film.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I honestly think that's one of the stronger performances in the whole film. Not to be overshadowed by Sean Cook, local legend.
Come on.
And his crazy animated performance.
Sean is a force, man.
He's a force. But no, honestly, like you really sold us that character. And I feel like you made us emote with that character a lot. So bravo to you.
Well, thank you, sir.
So that was like your first feature film as well. I was trying to think what year that came out. I don't know if it was...
That was we filmed in 2016. It didn't come out to 2017.
2017, yeah. What was that like for you? You had done some short films.
I actually had done... That was my first I had done one feature actually before.
You had? Okay.
Patient 62.
Was that shot before Talent?
Yes.
Really?
When we finished filming, it was the fall of 2015. And I got 2 months after we finished shooting, I believe in October or November. Lucas approaches me with the script December. So it was one right off the other.
Okay. So that was really close together. I often lose track of what was shot when. I kind of just know this one's a little older. This one's, that's all I've got in my brain. Okay, so that's your second feature then. This probably was, in the other film, Patient 62, you were quite a big part of that film as well. You were definitely
like supporting.
Like support, yeah, because you were kind of like the sidekick character almost, right, for the lead guy. Alicia's asking in the chat, and I'm going to just get to this. So where can you watch this film? Well, Talent is available on iTunes still, I believe. Actually, if you even just look up Prairie Cat Productions, and we should throw that in the show notes as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Prairie Cat Productions will have links to all of the work that's been done with that company. But yeah, Talent is easily available on iTunes. So yeah, for those of you watching and those interested. Anyways, okay. So yeah, second feature length film. I guess the question I'm having is, what was that like for you making that leap from, quick little shoot, or even I'm imagining again you did some theater, I'm assuming as well.
Yes.
But I always find feature length films to be quite different because you're doing things out of sequence. It's a little more. A little less performative, right? Like you're trying to like almost be understated sometimes in film. You can't be boisterous and over the top all the time, right?
Yeah.
What's it like for you making that transition to, hey, I'm going to be on set now for days on end, diving into one character, and the production level was much higher in these things too as well. So I'm just curious about how that was like for you.
It was extraordinary in that I had always, as much as I loved the performances themselves of actors, learning about the preparation, the extent of the preparation beforehand, when you think of the iconic performances out there, it's no joke. And I absolutely wanted to play on that level, and I wanted to, despite being still relatively green and still adjusting to the medium itself, especially the rhythm of the shooting on a feature. Right. I wanted the work itself behind the scenes to be as in depth as possible. I just wanted to challenge myself consistently with that.
Right.
With the text work as well as any non-insane level of things you do outside of it, but like harmful things or whatever. But in terms of like if there's a knowledge of what the characters read or what sort of where places they'd hang out, doing imaginative work, like what would that kind of be like? Just putting all the tools that I'd been learning about in my time learning about acting at the university,
right?
Putting all that into practice. So essentially, it was like, I guess in medical terms, like the practicum kind of thing. Finally doing it. Yeah. So that was. There was always an adjustment in terms of shooting schedule and the hours at times, particularly more so on Patient 62 because we had more night shoots.
Oh yeah.
So that was what happens to the mind in those late hours is interesting.
Yeah.
But otherwise, the experience overall was one of growth and some of the happiest times in my life so far.
I love you say that. Some of the happiest times. Yeah. I had a really good time on Talent myself. And I know, again, we both got to work a lot together on that as well.
Yeah.
And I think that particular film, one thing I can really give praises to Prairie Cat Productions for is they schedule well. Like, like the schedule was really good. It was, we're not constantly pushing the deadlines and everything like that. Like, you just feel like you're having a good time with some friends. And there's a little bit of stress here and there. I mean, every film does.
Yeah.
But the vibe of the set was just really fun and everybody was friends. Like, I just feel like I still think back to that film and everybody on that film. And I just feel so fondly about everybody. Like every time I see somebody from that film, I'm just like so excited to interact with them.
And that specifically is exactly why I believe wholeheartedly that the industry here and the people actively involved in it and who are productive have nothing to be jealous of bigger productions.
Right.
The level of professionalism on all of these sets is just, you think, oh, well, all sets are this respectful and all this, but it's not always the case at all. And so the fact that there was such a level of professionalism and everyone eager to be focused but also, have fun, get along well with everybody is not only a testament to the people, the individuals themselves, but the tone that the director sets. And Lucas is extremely focused, and he always, and as a result of that focus, it's a lighthearted environment,
right?
Because it can breathe. There's intention, and like even sometimes you'll surprise. Like on Pen Pals, I was just there for a day.
Yeah, you were the mailman.
The mailman.
Yeah, that's right.
Carl Malone.
You were Carl Malone.
For NBA, NBA aficionados. And sometimes he'll be doing and I don't want to, when he's in director mode, I don't want to bug him or anything, but sometimes he would come up to me when we're waiting for the shot and he'd like talk to me and then be casual and like make jokes or have fun, and I'm like, oh, cool, because I know him off screen, of course, and we can have fun, but when he's on the clock, I don't want to, distract him too much, but then he comes up to me and talks to me. So, and that's just a result of someone who is focused and has a vision and knows what he's doing.
Totally, yeah, and understands the human element of what we're doing too. It's not. We shouldn't all be unapproachable and completely. We shouldn't have separation between departments all the time. Like I feel like. There's an element of that. Like, obviously, I don't want to disturb an actor when they're trying to get into the mindset they need for their performance.
Yeah, exactly.
But having said that, I mean, when we're taking a break and we're hanging out, I should be able to go up to the actor and say, "How you doing? Nice to see you," and have a quick chat. Because I know that definitely on some sets that is not okay. You stick to your department. You don't mess with anybody who's not meant to directly mess with you, right? Like it's like even like I avoid the director a lot. when I, as a sound, I guess I should give context to the audience. People who don't know, I've done location sound on film.
Right. Yes.
And I quite often would avoid the director, and not because I'm like, oh, like they're big and scary, but because I don't want to create any extra stress through line. So I'm always going to the assistant director.
Yeah.
It's always the AD. It's always the AD that I'm going to for, hey, you know what? We need some time to lav this person, or we need some time to adjust something because,
and that's not a bad, I mean, that is actually good onset etiquette.
Exactly. Chain of command.
Yes.
But then when it's coffee break or when it's just casual chat time that everybody's having, then I should be able to talk to anybody. Then it shouldn't matter. You know what I mean? Like that's the vibe that I would love on set. I would love for everybody just to be hanging out and have a good time and not feel, I don't know, some of these bigger name actors on sets I've worked on definitely go recluse themselves away, or reclusive, like they don't talk to anybody else. And maybe that's just their method. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too harsh, but maybe their method is that they don't want to be disturbed at all because they're in character constantly. But
yeah, I mean, and there's scenes that would call for that sometimes.
Yeah.
But there's definitely actors that have gone on record of saying that, yeah, no, I do it, and then I come out and we start talking to the gaffers and the grips and all that, and it's fine. Yeah, some people just need a bit more focus. And it's funny because those are usually the people that would say, "Oh, I'm actually like there." It actually comes from a place of just wanting to do a good job. Actually, sometimes it's just that they're like, they're like, "I'm not talented enough. Like, I really need to focus." It's more like I need to work hard at this. You know?
It's amazing how many actors that are like professionals say that I'm just not very good.
yeah. So I need to be like.
I've seen that
really focused. Yeah.
Interview after interview. They're like, I'm just not very good at what I do, so I really need,
exactly. Yeah. Like not everyone's Brando where he could just show up and then not care and be like whatever, and then the camera's on and then he does something and it's magic and it's poetry and and then he can go off and just eat a cheeseburger.
Yeah. One last thought I want to say before we move on to the next thing. We were talking about Adam Sandler and Jim Carrey, and then I'm talking about yourself and kind of your performances. It's fantastic how, Carrey and Sandler, I honestly like them better in their dramatic roles. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is one of my favorite films ever.
Oh, yeah.
Punch Drunk Love is one of my favorite films.
Yes.
Sadler's recent film Hustle was fantastic. What was the other one? The Jules one.
Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems. Yeah, that one was again. These guys have such incredible dramatic performances. I almost prefer them in those roles. So, it's kind of neat that you took influence from that because I see that shifting in your performances as well. You mentioned Patient 62. Goofy sidekick, a DJ, kind of. I don't know what the word is, but mildly pathetic at times in the film, right?
He's very excited and doesn't quite have the tact of how to go about things yet.
Exactly, right? Yeah. You go from that, but then, like I say, when I saw you in Mud Dreams, it was, profound acting. There was no, you're not laughing at this character. He's not goofy. He's not, it's almost like a recent version of this I saw was, I can't remember the actor's name, but he was in Squid Game. He's the lead in Squid Game.
Oh, okay.
Jae-Sung Park, I think might be his name.
Oh, okay.
Don't quote me on that. But and then he's also in The Acolyte and a new Star Wars show, and it's wild to see how different he is in these two shows. He's unrecognizable. Like in Squid Game, he's goofy, aloof, kind of pathetic. He's endearing, you love him, but you kind of feel bad for him. In The Acolyte, he's like this stern, like wise, but definitely some underlying drama going on, so yes. I really respect actors that can skirt those lines, go back and forth. I really do. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Anyways, just a little bit of gushing. I've been gushing for you a lot today, but for good reasoning. You're one of my favorite local actors. One thing I do want to talk about, so speaking of local actors, and you mentioned acting locally and not being ashamed of being from Regina and our scene. So obviously things have been picking up a little bit here. For those who don't have any context, we don't have a tax credit here in Saskatchewan for film. It's one of the only real regions that is like that, I believe, in Canada. I don't know all the specifics of every province, but definitely we stand out that way.
Yeah.
What happened is our provincial government injected a bunch of money into our film industry, and from more of a grant perspective. So it really depends on the budget of your film, the distribution you have lined up, all that kind of stuff, in terms of what kind of money you can get. Now, what we have created in Saskatchewan is something called the Volume. So for those of you who are not aware of what the Volume is, it's a giant digital screen that wraps around in a circle. and it's basically replaces a green screen because it creates a really immersive environment. So we created this new infrastructure, and now we have some films happening here. Still, I have some opinions on this. I don't want to get too deep into that, but I do like that something's happening. So tell me a bit about acting on the prairies. I know that's the title of the episode, so I do want to get to that a bit because it feels like I always hear this. This is the black hole, not just for actors, but for everything. It's like we're Saskatchewan is the black hole.
Sucks you in.
It sucks you in. Nothing's happening here, but now we're starting to pick up a bit. You've been around for, like I say, eons. We talked about this and I joked about this, but you've been in so many films. I mean, I look at my catalog of all the films I've worked on, and you're pretty much in all of them. There's very few of them you're not. So you've been around for a long time. Now you're seeing the industry shift back to having some bigger presence. And I saw you were working on a film recently too, but in a different capacity, right? Were you a stuntman in that film?
Yes.
Did you act in this film as well, or did you?
Yes,
you did.
I ended
both.
up. Yeah, it ended up occurring that way as well.
Okay, cool. Okay, so so it's been keeping you busy for sure.
Yes, thankfully.
I want to talk about this then. I want to talk about the industry right now in Saskatchewan and what's going on and what, I guess, what do you see? Like, are you hopeful now that you're seeing all this, now working on some bigger productions? Is that changing the spirit too of maybe the way we had things set up as an indie film province? Like, elaborate on some of your experiences because you have some recent knowledge that I'm not aware of.
Well, I mean, for the production, which is, I'm grateful, honored to have been a part of it. The film that's the first film shot on the Volume Global Wall, a Hostile Takeover.
Okay,
and
that
that's
was the recent one. Yes.
So that's the inaugural one. So being a part of that is kind of being a part of Saskatchewan film history.
Yeah,
I would say so. I mean, I'm over the moon for it. I do want to do a quick shout out that that would not have been a possibility without our stunt team coordinator lead, Jason Trong.
Yes, shout out to Jason.
Yeah, I love you, buddy.
We'll see him later too.
Yeah. So he would put everybody together, and the production approached him to do some work on it. And yeah, the experience, the way the industry's gone, definitely went from when I started studying back in 2011, when I had my first theater class, and it was just a theory, more of a learning about theater itself. I had about a year where things were good, like where you had Sleepwalking was filming. I believe that was a Charlize Theron movie with Dennis Hopper,
right? Yeah,
and other things and my uncle and aunt were quite are ACTRA members, and they were on extras, and they were on set with these people, like
cool.
With Woody Harrelson and the filming stuff here in Regina. So it was a bountiful time for sure.
Yeah,
and then a year later, seeing that went all south, and just as I was getting in, I'm like, great timing, man. It's all gone. Once Andrew gets gets involved in the industry, it's like we're all out of here.
Yeah.
So
yeah. We don't want that guy. We don't want that guy.
Yeah. It seemed it's like, get over yourself, but that's how it felt like. But it was, I'm also pretty, like, I nerd out on financial stuff, personal finance stuff. I'm a big nerd in that. And there's always a saying in investing that says, never waste a good crisis.
Yeah.
So the upside of everything being gone is for someone just starting in the industry, it was fertile ground.
Oh, yeah.
Because you still have instructors here, people who have a wealth of experience. There's nothing to do. Or very little to do, I should say. There's still people very productive. But now it's easier meeting people. There aren't lineups out the door for auditions. There aren't, people higher up, people with wealth of experience are just a short email away, and their inbox isn't flooded. And
right.
So no, it was an ideal time to find your team, find your entourage, and start to build things, build the resume up, get experience, offer value, find out how you can offer value.
Yeah.
Learn what you don't know.
Yeah.
And sharpen that, find mentors, and get stronger.
I 100% benefited the same way from the industry collapsing.
Yeah.
And I hate that this is the way it worked out, but I was getting involved in sound around that same time that you're talking about, because I actually was an extra on quite a few films back then, and TV series and things like that. And so it was a great way to make some extra money while I was in university.
Yeah.
I would just sit and read my books in the green room and then go be an extra for 2 hours, 3 hours and get paid. So yeah, I was definitely coming up in the film industry around the same time, and then I switched over to audio, and that gap that was created left all of a sudden this huge amount of opportunity for me to step into all these films that were being created, whether it was student or indie. There's also commercials in town. I mean, you've been on quite a few commercials. One of them that's very infamous that I don't want to talk about, but that I like to joke about with you, but I'll tell you after. Okay. No. Anyways, yeah, so all this stuff is still going on, and somebody has to come in and fill that void. And that's what I did too. I suddenly became the audio person in town because the other audio folks had to change careers, and they were working big scale productions, and they needed to rely on that to keep it going. I didn't need that. I was just getting my feet wet and still working a day job and doing this, which is actually harkens back to our last episode. We're talking about making a living from art, and that slow progression of working the day job and then doing those small films and things like that until finally having enough to just go at that full time. I think so. One of the unintended consequences then, not just for me, but as an actor, then I think a lot of the roles that you got, you got really big roles in, like I say, a feature-length film, multiple feature-length films, lots of short films, commercials. It's almost like all these people who had to leave from the big industry left that gap. And suddenly you got yourself who can come in and get all these exciting, interesting roles and really build your craft rather than sit back and just be an extra all the time for Woody Harrelson, right?
Yeah.
Did you find that then? Was that how it worked out for you? Like did that opening leave a lot of room for your opportunities then?
Yeah, I just believe that it left an opportunity for someone anybody who was thoughtful about the work and was in it for the right reasons to come in and make an impression on these up and coming filmmakers. Some of them, more established, but some who were also just starting out, who also maybe saw some value in the fact that a lot of the big organizations had moved elsewhere.
Right.
So it was a great. I completely found that was the case, that maybe they would have approached, I don't know, other people perhaps that are more established that had to leave.
Yeah. And it's not to take anything away from any actors. Like, I feel like there's a lot of great actors out there, and sometimes some of them don't get discovered and I'd say more often than not, actors don't get discovered and get larger roles because there's only so many of them, right? But it doesn't mean that there's not a whole bunch of talented actors. So I think it was really cool to watch just local talented people. It's not somebody who was, on corner gas from Ontario who suddenly is getting other roles here because they happen to be in Saskatchewan, right? It was the Andrew Valdez's of the world, right? Or the Natalie, I can't remember Natalie. Lazarus of the world. Or I think more currently Laura Abramson, like she does tons of stuff.
Absolutely. I went to school with Laura.
Yeah, you went to, right, and she's acted in some of the same projects as you.
Fantastic. She's fantastic.
Fantastic actor. So it definitely paved the way, or just it left it open for local people, and I really liked that. It's one thing that I hope doesn't go away. I really hope that we can maintain an industry that still has these vibrant indie films. That Lucas Frison is making, that Aaron Sinclair is making. Rick Anthony was another one you mentioned. All these local directors who are making these great films. And providing us with infrastructure and work and really interesting roles, right? Really, again, I feel like the kind of roles you can get in those types of films and the kind of community you can build can be different than the big machines that come through, right? So I'm really hoping we don't lose that as the industry comes back and becomes more vibrant again. It'd be great to have both, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously the industry's shifting. It sounds like, again, you've been busy. Are you slated to do anything else? Have you got some other things coming up, or?
There's a couple things. thankfully that are on the horizon. Everything early on is always like, will it get made? Will it move forward? So it's a little bit there. Some are a little more further along. So no, I'm thankful that I'm being allowed the opportunity either to audition or to be invited to projects, which I never take for granted. I always feel honored, and
For sure.
there's always there's still things happening. So and it seems to be getting because of the volume and the new financial system being input, opportunities flourishing. So I'm excited.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm really excited. I have yet to go see the volume. I've been invited by one of my friends. Do you know Dave Hansen? I know he works on the volume as well.
Honestly, I believe that I used to do work for the Connexus Arts Center. And our director of sales there knows him, and he actually spoke to me about him. Because he mentioned he was doing some interesting film stuff. So.
Yeah, he's a well-known he was a well-known producer around here. I don't know if he's producing anymore. I'm not entirely sure, but I know he's involved with the volume. What he told me.
Awesome.
He was involved in that somehow. So I definitely want to come down and check it out.
It's quite a sight for sure.
It is, yeah. And I personally do I prefer a volume over the green screen personally. I do. I've noticed. I can tell the difference often.
Yeah, it reads very well on camera. It translates.
Does. Yeah.
When you're really up close to it, you can obviously tell that it's a digital projection. But even if you start to walk a few paces back and you look at it, you're like, okay, that's a little harder to tell. And then by the time you're, like at the entrance and you look at the far wall, you're like, wow, that looks pretty. That looks like a condo building.
Yeah.
And then once you it takes an even bigger step when you see it through the camera visor. Mm-hmm. Now you go, wow, it looks like we're there.
That's awesome. Yeah. So definitely for those of you who, again, don't know much about the volume, look it up. It's really fascinating to watch how they use it. I believe The Mandalorian was one of the big projects that use the volume that people talk about a lot. So,
and that one's not doing too bad, I think.
Yeah. Mandalorian did okay.
It found a little bit of an audience.
But before we wrap up, I do want to take another look at a clip. So, talking about this, the indie scene, and we mentioned Jason Trong. So Andrew does have a small little production company called Character Flaw Productions.
Right.
They do lots of little cool indie stuff, and this is the spirit we're talking about. Getting together with your creative friends and creating stuff. So, this is something I really appreciate about our local scene. So. This is a film called Mary What? ? Right. So there's a short little clip from that. Here we go.
Jeff, great news. I just finished submitting the proposal to Human Resources regarding the white tiger portrait in our meeting area. Jeff. Meeting area. Portrait.
Oh, that tiger thing.
Yes. Yeah. Now you know that I love that this company is embracing that can-do eye of the tiger spirit that made it great once. Yeah. But I feel that subliminally, we may be presenting an exclusionary message to some of the employees of this company. So, to balance things out, I've recommended to HR that we place a black tiger portrait by the same artist, same pose, next to the white tiger portrait. So as to create a more... Inclusive corporate environment, yes. Mm-hmm. So what do you think?
Yeah, sure, whatever turns your crank, but I don't think there's such thing as black tigers.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Well, anyway, how are the kids?
No kids.
Wife?
Divorced.
Oh, terrific. Was it a sexual issue?
Wonderful. I love when you play a character that's kind of aloof and kind of like not entirely, not with it.
He's socially unaware.
Yeah, socially unaware. Yeah, you do that well.
I wonder why.
No, it's not a mock on you personally.
No, I know.
But no, it's fantastic. Like you get it across really well. But anyway, so yeah, that's Character Flaw Productions. Go check them out. I will also throw that in the show notes. Got a lot of work to do here, Alicia. I know you're watching. We got to throw a lot of things in the show notes. But yeah, go check out Character Flaw Productions. Go subscribe. Go check it out. Other than that, we do have one last quick thing we want to do, and we do our artist spotlight segment here every second episode. So yeah, you've brought something you wanted to talk about quickly. So take the floor. You get to highlight an artist today.
Oh yeah, well, so and this was anyone, anywhere over the world, right? Okay, good. Well, I just like to throw consistently, and I've been asked this for some, I don't know, universal reason. Maybe it was leading up to this, like over the last few weeks, what my favorite films are by family and friends. And it's always a tough call because it's usually a tie between The Green Mile and the entirety of the Dark Knight trilogy. Like I treat that as one movie, honestly.
Yeah.
Because it blends so well. And the reason I say the whole trilogy is because ultimately it's I'm not like, I don't believe that I'm as enthusiastic as superheroes as you are, which I do see like the validity of some of the films, especially by the Russo brothers, who've given each a really thoughtful treatment. But as told by Christopher Nolan, it really, like, when I finish that whole thing, it ends up being for me about the story of a man trying to let go of his own pain.
Yeah,
like that's what the story for me of Bruce Wayne is about. Is just letting go of this trauma. So, and I think it captures it beautifully because Nolan is first and foremost a writer. And he understands narrative to the same degree that a New York Times, I think, best-selling author would understand narrative. So that's really it's something very grounded, and it's very human. It's the second. It's the superhero element by the end of the whole movie takes a backseat to just this person's journey about it.
100%.
So yeah, the psychology of the character and. Just letting go of all that, and I think it encapsulates in the one line in The Dark Knight Rises where he's like, where the Selena Kyle says to him, you've given everything to these people, you don't owe them anything.
You don't know, yeah.
And he's like, well, no, not everything, not yet. And I think, and in the Batman voice.
I know this movie off by heart.
I know. Well, I mean, even the trailer to that one just gets me. It really does, especially if you watch Batman Begins. So I think I would say I would recommend anybody watch those movies, not for the superhero part of it. I think I know for a time in my life where I was, had mental health struggles as well. Like that just spoke to me in such a profound way, and I guess taught me somehow how to let go of things, and you can move on. It doesn't have to define your life.
This is unfortunate because I could probably talk about this for a very long time with you.
I probably could too.
We're running out of time, but it's like one of those things where this is an entire episode. Maybe I'll have to have you back to do a whole Dark Knight episode. I actually had Lucas Frison, speaking of him, on the show. The original,
I remember that.
Yeah, the original version of the show, and we talked about Batman on film, but we didn't talk specifically about the Dark Knight trilogy by itself.
And, I could talk to you about all of the things too.
Oh, me too.
All of the things.
I think I saw the Dark Knight in theater about. I lost track. Like it was 10 to 15 times.
I went to see it at the IMAX not too long ago when they had all
it was
three.
Back. Yeah,
I caught that.
Actually Dark Knight Rises opening day, I was able to watch all three films on the same day at the Cineplex. It was called the Galaxy at the time.
Right.
And they showed Batman Begins, Dark Knight, and then right at midnight they showed the Dark Knight Rises.
Oh.
And it was
that is excellent.
It was an incredible way to experience the trilogy for the first time.
I wish I was there.
So yes, lots of Dark Knight stories.
Yeah.
Yes, nerd out in another episode, says Alicia in chat. So yes, Alicia definitely thinks that's a good idea. Awesome. But yeah, we will for sure do that because I as well had profound experiences from that trilogy. I still do. I rewatched it recently with my son. Got to show him for the first time, and he loved it actually.
Yes.
It's cool watching a young person see that trilogy for the first time and see their response to it.
100%.
And I was still emotional. All years later, rewatching the trilogy, there were still things that got me.
Yeah.
Like the end of the Dark Knight, the first or the second film where, there's three of them. There's Commissioner Gordon, Harvey Dent, and Batman, and they've all at this point failed. And that trifecta that kind of regroups at the end. And,
Yes.
and the tragedy of what happened is like that part always gets me. Like the idea that all hope is really lost. That everybody can be corruptible. Even the best among them is corruptible, and he's fallen to all the insanity that the Joker's laying out.
And it's fascinating because it's true.
Because it's true, right? And it was frightening. That movie frightened me the first time I watched it. The Joker frightened me, not because he's scary, but because the nihilism that he presents is too contagious. It's too believable. It's too relatable.
It's much easier to be hopeless than preserve faith.
But then he has joy in that. He has fun with that.
Yes.
He's gotten to the point where it's a joke and he gets it and it's fun.
Oh yeah.
And like that is frightening. Like just to think that you could get that far gone that you don't. Yeah. Anyways, we could talk about this for a long time, but I guess what I'm trying to say is it impacted me just as much. So
100%. We will talk about that.
We will.
I love that.
Anyway, so we're going to wrap it up here. So for those of you who are watching in the live stream, we're going to take a break and we're going to come back and have another episode with Alicia down in New York. She's going to join us for another episode. For those of you who are watching or listening on Spotify, YouTube as it's released, thanks for coming by. This is the end of the episode. And Andrew, plug your stuff. So I know we mentioned Character Flaw Productions. Anything else you want to plug? Anything else you got going on?
No, we'll just be on the lookout for the Trong stunt team, as we're calling it.
Yes, the Trong stunt team.
Being on future projects. Fingers crossed, but it's looking good. So we're excited about that.
I heard that the volume is booked for the year pretty much. Like you guys will hopefully have lots of opportunity to.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I suppose the last thing would be for Character Flaw Productions, we had terms and conditions.
Oh yeah,
that this a private preview screening.
And that's a feature as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. So keep an eye out more for updates from that as well.
Yes, terms and conditions. Actually, the trailer is available online as well. So we'll go check it out. Well, thanks again, Andrew, for coming by. It was great to chat. I always feel like by the end of the episode, I haven't had enough time to get into all the things I want to get into. So we'll definitely have to have you back in the future and dive more into things.
Do a 3-hour format.
3 hour. We'll do a marathon podcast.
Oh yeah.
We'll watch the entire Dark Knight trilogy. And no, just kidding.
Do a reaction podcast.
Video. Yeah. But thanks again for coming by.
Thank you.
And we'll see you again. And for those of you, again, thank you for watching and checking it out. We'll see you again next time.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks for checking out this episode of The Creative Coliseum. We'll see you next time. The Creative Coliseum is mixed and edited by David Roman. Executive producers are Alicia Van Betju and David Roman. Gear support provided by Roman Empire Studios. Theme music created by Roman Music YQR. Recorded live on location in Regina, Canada, Treaty 4 territory. Voiceover performed by Sundance Robson. Logo design provided by Danielle Austin. Special thanks Kyle Parkinson, Laura Posadka, and Rob Hillstead. The Creative Coliseum is a Nerd Party entertainment production in conjunction with Piano TV. Now get back out there and conquer your creativity.